easy.
Teammates, we are back once again. If this is your first time listening to the Move Swiftly podcast, welcome to the #1 podcast on innovative teamwork. Great to have you. Shout out again to podmatch.com for taking all the logistical work out of me finding guests, and it just allows me to connect with some incredible people. To my regular listeners, you already know what I'm about, Mr. ABC, always be connecting and always being coached as well. All right, I just invented that one on the spot, but for those of you who don't know, for my regular listeners, you know I've been coached by part of a group coaching program by the name of Work on Your Game University. The previous guest, his name is Dre Baldwin, who hosts it. And we had a coaching call a couple of weeks back, and he had recommended the book Profit First. And I started listening to it on Audible and things like that. And as you guys know, I joined the Pod Match community, and one of the people that I match with, his name is Brandon Neely, and he's actually, do you call yourself, is it a Profit First coach or a Profit First, like, what's the actual title?
I'm a profit first coach. I'm not a bookkeeper
Right.
or any of that. I think that yeah, I would say I'm a profit first coach,
Yeah, Profit First.
understanding how that works.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I thought it was really interesting in regards to, because a lot of you regular listeners know I talk a lot about the importance of reading and applying the things you read. It's one thing to actually read a book, but it's a completely different thing to actually apply it and change the things that happen in your life. So you, Brandon, you and your wife had a coffee shop. Now you're running a company named Wealth Wisdom Financial and all that kind of stuff. So with all that, I want to kind of just introduce you, allow you to talk a little bit about your background a little bit, and we'll kind of kick it off from there, man.
Cool. I'm ready to rock and roll. So I love the idea of profit first. I wish I would have had that
Mhm.
whenever we had our former business. One of the things that I remember, like literally listening to a podcast with Mike
Mhm.
McAllowitz on it, and they were offering the book for free if I write a review. And I was like, ooh, if I write a review,
Mhm.
I can get a free book, and that'll save on Christmas too, because then
Yeah, I remember you talking about
as I write
that.
this book, it'll be easy.
Mhm.
Um, and so I wrote that, and she loved it. I'm gonna get the copy actually in
Mhm.
just a second, but um, so we got the book, and we were like, man, I thought we were doing good in the business. I thought we were doing okay. But
Right.
we learned that we weren't actually paying ourselves in that coffee shop world and as well as we should have. And so we did all the finances right, we thought, but then moving into using that system just changed my life. And then ultimately, because of Profit First and some other things, that it said, hey, we should transition out of the coffee world and into something else. And now we're in finance of all things.
So one of the things, and just to kind of give a long and short end of what the Profit First is all about to the listeners, the thing I did, and I just recently finished listening to the book on Audible, is even before I finished the book, I actually went to Wells Fargo and created a brand. I did actually a whole video on this. I went to Wells
Mm-hmm.
Fargo. I created a brand new account that says profit, and every 2 weeks, because I do still teach. Every 2 weeks, a portion of my money goes right into that profit, and I discipline myself. No matter what goes out, I'm not touching it. I don't want to look at it. I just want to make sure it goes in,
Mm-hmm.
goes in. And one of the things that I was listening to you and Mike McAllowitz talk on a previous interview is like, when you start seeing things growing, all right, it's more of a
Mm-hmm.
mindset thing. You start seeing your money growing. That is just kind of a mental thing that now you start to know how to approach business and pay yourself first. So I want to make sure I kind of get this on record. What was your motivation when you guys started that coffee shop? Because I know for a fact, like, you get a Starbucks, you get people that start coffee shops. It's not necessarily to sell coffee, but it's to build those business relationships
Yeah.
for people to come in and have some sort of a place, some entrepreneurs and stuff like that. So how was that transition into, you guys doing what you were doing before, and then now you're helping people with their finances? So kind of talk a little bit about
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. So it's kind of weird, right? I mean, I really am an activist. And so we learned that coffee was the second most widely traded commodity in the world.
I
Americans'
purposely,
number one
not to cut you
consumer.
off, but I purposely went and got me a cup before we started recording this. Purposely
And
so.
I'm drinking from my old coffee shop mug, actually. So,
Yeah.
you know, and so it is a place that we don't realize we drink it. It has impacted our whole world, the Ottoman Empire, all of that stuff. And so we learned about this, and we said somebody needs to make a difference for people in those countries. Like we
Mhm.
can't just consume and not pay them. And
Yeah.
so
Wow.
Overflow came out of ethical economics and community building, right? And so building community with
Mhm.
entrepreneurships in the south side of Chicago was the goal, and ethical economics. And
Mhm.
our business name was called Overflow at the time. Still around, I just don't own it.
Mhm.
But what I learned is is Overflow is about this idea of um, MLK says a threat to justice anywhere or injustice anywhere is a threat to justice
Everywhere.
everywhere.
Yeah.
Right. And we were like, well, couldn't you flip it and say positive things happening to you can impact the world, right?
Yes.
And around. But what
Yeah,
I
great
learned
connection.
was
A great connection.
ripple effect, right?
Yeah.
Um, but what I learned is that I can't help more people if I'm not taking care of me, both physically, mentally, spiritually, all
Mhm.
of those areas, right?
Mhm.
And so Profit First gave me the as an activist where like, oh well, I can take one for the
That
team. I
was
can
what you
keep
guys were.
taking one
Yeah,
for the
you
team.
guys were originally had that
Yeah.
mindset of helping. So I didn't even realize this was South Side Chicago you guys were in. So
Hmm.
that's awesome too.
Yeah. So we were like, oh man, as business owners and entrepreneurs, you know this.
Hmm.
Everybody says, "Well, no, it's okay, but you love it. That's why you do it. That's,
Yeah.
it's okay." And so our
Hmm.
staff would get paid more than us, right? And so we
Really?
learned over time, hey, we need to make sure that it flows to us first, and so Profit First gave us the okay to be
Hmm.
profitable. As an activist, sometimes you're like, oh yeah, but it feels slimy to make money. It
Hmm.
feels like I'm going to be that guy over there, which I don't want to be.
Hmm.
I don't want to be just showing my Instagram um, Ferrari or whatever
Conceded,
that I
yeah.
really don't
A lot,
have.
and actually, I
Mhm.
do kind of reference that in my first book, Swiftly, is when you have the skill and when you have, like when you want to work, because I believe you,
Mhm.
the number out there was like most of the people out there just want a job and want to be told what to do. They don't necessarily want to come off as conceited. They don't want to do necessarily anything that's going to mess up that regular check, that comfortable job. That's the
Mhm.
mindset that the school teaches, you know. So the
Yep. Yep.
majority of people don't want to be on Instagram with Ferraris and all that. They just, hey, I want to get my check. I want to make sure we're good and not be
Mhm.
conceited. So that, like you said, profit first kind of it debunks that myth a little bit because
Yep.
of, I guess, the abruptness in it. Pay yourself first, and then you're helping people. And I didn't mean to cut you off, but
Yeah.
that where you're going is a very important aspect. And I want you listeners to make sure you tune in very, very closely as he continues to explain how paying yourself first is actually a little more selfless than selfish.
Mhm.
The opposite
Well,
way
and
the school thinks is make you selfish, but it's a paying yourself first that is actually selfless. So go ahead.
yeah, and then there's a guy, A.G. Gaston. I don't know if you're familiar with the civil rights movement, but A.G.
I don't know
Gaston,
before my
uh, he said, and I learned this when I was in Montgomery, Alabama recently. He said a
Mhm.
portion of all you earn is for you to keep. A part of all. I was like, man, this guy helped fund. He created um, Booker T. Washington Insurance or something like that.
Mhm.
And I was like, holy crap, this is something I learned. And I was like, that's profit first before Mike
Oh,
McAllowitz
yeah,
came
before he
along.
was even born, probably.
Yeah, yeah. And I was like, and that funded MLK and all kinds of craziness because this guy learned how banking worked and he was, learning to keep a portion for himself, right? Not just, and the problem in our world is banks know how to confiscate our money. They'll say, "Oh, you can get this 20% interest," um,
I
and
just said
and
that. That's, they'll
right,
throw that line in at 20% interest, right?
Yeah. And then we don't even think about it, but we got that car, right? And so what I love about Profit First is it's a cash flow management system. It does not solve, you got to still make money. You got to have a profitable business,
Yeah.
right? But you can then leverage and use it because you have the various accounts.
Hmm.
And that's going to tell you if you have your first, oh, of course, owner's pay.
Hmm.
Then you have your tax hold account. I mean, I'm serious. This is insane. How many business owners forget that they owe taxes? And then they're like, oh, I didn't know that. I'm like, how do you not know that that wasn't your money? Now, what you do with it, that's a different story. And I have a whole nother thing that I think about, like where I put my tax hold money in. It's a different kind of bank. Um, and then OpEx,
Topic.
right? And then profit,
Yeah.
right? And I was just talking to a friend the other day, and she's like, "Yeah, I'm doing very well, but
Mhm.
I need I it's just me." And I said, if you put money into an account and that OpEx account, and you keep running a good business,
Mhm.
well, then guess what happens? Your OpEx is going to grow as much as your profit is going to grow, and then
Exactly.
that's going to tell you, guess what? I need a staff person,
Right.
and it's actually selfish, in my opinion,
Right.
to not grow in revenue and to build an organization that can create jobs. Like for us as business owners, man, I get the opportunity to help more than just my son's Christmas, but other kids' Christmas
Yeah.
because
That,
of that.
Yeah, that responsibility is something that I think it's so very important for business owners to understand because like you had mentioned before we started recording, I spent time as a boxing trainer and this company
Mm-hmm.
Nine Round, it's a franchise and this specific owner, I would say it all the time. If the franchise owners watched him on a daily basis, they
Mm-hmm.
would have figured out a way to kick him out because he wasn't making the sales calls. He had, a full team and we were depending on him to get paid, but he was not the kind of guy that was actually going out making calls and doing the things that were going to lead to profit. We're just depending on the door, we're depending on the people that are already coming in and things like that. So when it comes to the way you sort of serve business owners now, how do you get them to understand that, get them to see, hey, look, I get that that's not your personality, or I get you may not be the guy that, but you got people that are depending on you. You got people that are living in their truth and
Yep.
they're very passionate about their job that you've created. How do you get them to see, look, this is your responsibility now? This is
Yeah.
actually your real job is to make it so you keep these jobs available for people. That business, that gym is no longer in business now.
Yeah. Yeah.
They permanently closed. And I wasn't surprised when I heard about it. It was one of those things where, again, it's a business owner who's not taking the aspect of you're a job creator now. You're not taking that
Yeah.
aspect seriously at all. So, to that you say,
Yeah. I think that's the hardest part is we will say, I'm good at making widgets
yeah.
or sales or boxing, right? So I do my thing and we don't understand how to read a P&L statement. We don't understand or have the team in place to help you. And I think that that's a challenge in business ownership. A lot of them know how to hustle and grind, but
Mhm.
they don't know how to make sure they both make and keep money. Making is easy. Sometimes, some people are it's harder for them to make and they can
Right.
keep it, but it's a dance, right?
Yeah.
And so understanding how to read those things, maybe you have a coach that helps in the financial world, a fractional CFO,
Mhm.
but too many people have delegated their money things and say it's too confusing. I'm just going to let somebody else do it.
Exactly.
And this is in our business world,
Mhm.
finance world, everywhere we say, well, that's too confusing. Let me just put it in a 401k and don't worry about it. And I'm like, if you don't have a plan, someone else has a plan for your money.
Right.
And so understanding the flow, it is as a business owner, your job
Mhm.
to at least maybe you're not a bookkeeper, whatever, but your job is to understand what's happening on the high level.
Right. Now, kind of educate people a little bit on that. When you say 401k, the previous owner that I spoke about, he actually took his 401k to buy this business. So I haven't spoken to him.
Hmm.
Only
Yeah.
imagine.
Yeah.
He lost the business now. It's probably I don't even want to think about how bad it's gotten for him. But I've also heard people who are not able to even get their 401k anymore. This was after COVID, and just kind of talking to other
Yep.
people, not even able to get it anymore, and their retirement plans are completely screwed up. They've been at this company for years. They were planning on retiring. Now they can't get the 401k. It wasn't as much. So speak to people a little bit of when they're in a situation where they're being enticed or they think that a 401k is going to just kind of solve all of their problems and stuff like that. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah. Well, it depends on the client, and that I could go on forever because I'm in the bank and yourself infinite banking world, which is properly designed life insurance.
Mhm.
And that's
And
kind of
actually,
one of
I
the
have a ton of questions
banks.
about that, man, by the way.
Yeah.
That's an
Yeah.
awesome.
I one of my banks happens to be my policy, right?
Yeah.
And what I think is important in asking this, and this is why I wrote my book, Five Smooth Stones is the book behind me.
Mhm.
We wrote that book because most people are just told, get a job, put into your 401k because it's free money. Don't
Mhm.
worry about it. It'll be fine. And they haven't ever asked themselves questions like, what do I want to be when I grow up? I don't know. Where do I want my business to be in 5 years? And if we're putting into other people's businesses, that's kind of what we do with a 401k and hope that it's going to be okay. And then we give up control to somebody else, right? Because I don't know what the market's going to do. I don't know what's going to happen. You don't look like you're close to 60,
Mhm.
right? So if you're like 30 and you have to wait till you're 60 to access your money without penalty, that's 30 years
Yeah.
of giving up control to somebody else.
Right.
So for me, I'm a business owner. I like control
Mhm.
and I want to have access. Access and control as a business owner is really, really important
Mhm.
because as you alluded to, crap happens. There was a whole thing called COVID that happened. And
I've had
guess
it.
what?
Right.
um, I was able to access my policy
Mhm.
to be able to get through that. And that's when I learned about, like, as far as moving into profit first, saying,
Mhm.
man, most businesses are going to go under, or a lot of them, and because they didn't have a good plan. Then the banks came and said, you know what, we'll give you PPP money.
Yeah, the
That's
PB.
what happened. And they said, well, we'll give you all of this money and it'll keep us going. Then
Right.
guess what happens? A few years later, we have this whole thing called inflation. And I'm like, well,
Exactly.
it was going to happen. Did you see how much money we gave for free,
Exactly. Right.
theoretically? Anyway, but it's having the business owner understanding where money is flowing and how to have control. And so I could go off on 401ks, but I don't really
No, you
want
you
to do
said
too much.
the right thing that everyone listening in has got to take away from your story, whether it's your story, whether it's profit first, whether it's everything I'm about. You got to control your finances. It is so important. One of my
Hmm.
favorite quotes by Jay-Z is, "I can't help the poor if I'm one of them." So I got rich
Yep.
and gave back to them. That's the win-win. You got to take control
Yep.
of the finances, even if it's just 1% of the profit, 1% of what you're making. Get it in your control so you see something going up and up and up. And you've kind of already alluded to what I really wanted to make sure we get on the record here is you actually have been able to create a policy in which, if I'm not mistaken, you can correct me if I'm wrong, in which you're able to, I believe you said you put a down payment on a house with your
Yep.
insurance policy and stuff like that. And I'm
Yep.
I'm in my car. I was on my way here in my car, like, what? So you mean to
Yep.
tell me this man has figured out a way to use the what you're gonna need, which is life insurance, and then figure out how to put a down payment on your house, and then also make it so your generations and generations and you're teaching generational wealth. So the floor is yours, man. I'm
Yeah.
really excited to hear about this, especially having a niece and nephew and being able to teach them about these things. So go ahead, man.
Yeah. So here's the thing I think that most people, and Dave Ramsey will say all kinds of things against me,
Yeah.
but your greatest asset is you, not your house, not other things, your 401k or any of that. Your greatest asset is you. What the market and Wall Street has said is, oh no, you are not. Let's not insure the greatest asset. Let's do something else. So if it was a cash machine, if you had a cash machine in your bedroom that is producing money, you would insure that thing, right? For
Yeah.
sure, 100%. You
Mhm.
would continue to insure that thing as long as it's around,
Mhm.
right?
Mhm.
For sure,
Yes.
100%.
Oh, no, I mean,
Um,
absolutely. I'll pay with
but
that's insured. It needs to be insured. Right.
yes, because that's what's making you money,
Mhm.
right? You are your greatest asset. Life insurance is to protect widows and orphans. That's really what it's there for, right? Initially. And so we were told, oh, don't put into that, put into the market in the 70s, 80s when the whole, 401k thing. But having properly designed whole life, you have to make sure it's the right one. I don't do index universal life or any of that, but I use properly designed whole life that is on me and my wife, and
Mhm.
we have seven as a family now. But we used it to save. We are saving for as we had the coffee shop, we were saving into that policy. Now,
Mhm.
here's the thing: not everything in business goes up and to the right or
Right.
life,
Right.
right? So what sucked for me and why I sold one of the reasons I sold the coffee shop is we had a flood in the business. The roof was off,
Right.
it rained, and the whole coffee shop flooded.
Yes.
Um,
Right.
Sucks whenever you get a phone call when you're on the treadmill and your staff is like, "Hey, you need to come in. The store's falling apart."
Sorry to hear
And you're
that.
like, "Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
You're
It's
not."
when you get
But
guilted and
yeah,
small something small like that. No, that's
yeah. So we went in and because of my life insurance policy, having access to capital, I was able to sell my business and not close it,
mm,
right? Sell it, not close it. That's a big difference,
yeah.
right? Um, and I was able to then use that because as the founder of Infinite Banking says, is don't steal the peas from your own grocery store. So I'm always thinking about flow of money
Right.
going in and out, right? And I used that same policy to do a down payment on my house right before COVID happened, actually.
Wow.
Actually, I bought my house in Ohio, March 13th of 2020. Do you
Right.
remember that day?
What
Uh,
was the day?
March 13th,
Yeah, I do. I remember
2020.
that. It was that actually was that the day
That
Kobe?
was
Was
that
that
was
the
the day.
that was the day
That was
Kobe?
the day that the world shut down. It was a
We
Friday.
had officially shut down, and we were grieving for. No, what happened was, yeah, because I was we were grieving from the Kobe situation, Kobe Bryant, and then
Yep.
world officially. So yeah, now it's coming back. It's coming back, man. Please just
Yeah.
go too far because that
Yeah.
those were some rough
And
times.
I literally was closing on a house saying, is this the right time to buy or the wrong time to buy?
Right,
I have no idea. Apparently it was the best time to
it
buy.
actually was the best.
Um,
Right.
yeah, we did not know. Hindsight is 2020.
Mhm.
Um, and at the same time, so I bought the house and then we are still running our firm here. We've been doing that. We actually used one of our other policies to buy our office condo. The office I'm in right now, I used my cash value to buy my office,
Mhm.
and my office is now, so I own the policy. My business um, is so I let me go back. I own the policy, I own the office, and my business is paying me rent, right?
Right.
And so then I'm thinking about taxes as well. But it's because I have control of my money
Right.
and I'm just happen to use a policy life insurance to be my own line of credit, right? It's kind of like instead of a HELOC, home equity line of credit, I'm a HELOC personally. I am the home, right? Anyway, I said a whole lot there. So I combined that with profit first in that one of my bank accounts may happen to be, sorry, throwing signs. Um,
I thought that was part of the.
may
Yeah, I thought that was actually. I was like, man, did I do that? That was pretty cool.
uh, it may happen to be a policy, right? A life insurance policy happens to be one of my banks that I have access to.
So allow me to kind of put you in the shoes of like someone like myself. So I still teach and I get my
Hmm.
insurance through the school and all that stuff. It's life insurance. And then I also just actually recently started doing investments with Primerica, which is mutual funds. when it comes to the question of the type of life insurance that I should consider or the kind of questions I should be asking, I believe you used the term whole versus another type of term. What should we be asking to make sure we're not being screwed out of a deal or make sure we're having control of our situation? Because we get approached by a
Yeah.
lot that say, hey,
And
we
I would say Primerica, no offense to them, but it's buy term, invest the rest. That if you go into his history of what they did back in the day, so their language would be, oh yeah, buy term, invest the rest. And a lot of times what we are learning or told is just what we've regurgitated from somebody else. The primary consultant will say the same thing that he heard from somebody else who heard from somebody else,
that's what he.
right? And so learning how to think about money one first and foremost,
Okay.
right? Right. And so what I like to think about is making sure you have an educator on your team when it comes to money.
Mhm.
For us, I'm a safe money guy, right?
Right.
I want to build your stable foundation, right?
Mhm.
And then what I like is, of course, if you have a job that is paying for as part of the benefits,
Mhm.
life insurance, that's great. But if I know that I need to be saving and I should be saving 30% of my income, I should be living within my means, right? So remember the profit first is having the different bank accounts,
Yes.
right? Well, I then go into personal and I say what I should be doing is doing it what I call the 10-10-10 savings rule.
Mhm.
Savings is not investing. Putting in your 401k is an investment, not a savings,
Mhm.
right?
Right.
Um, and so I save 10% for long term, 10% for medium term, and 10% for short term. And
Right.
then if I'm a church person, I might tithe 10%,
Right.
right? And I live off of 60.
Got it.
Never set a dollar amount because I don't know. As I'm a business owner, hopefully my percentages go up,
Percentages go
right?
up. The percentages go up. Right.
Yeah.
Right.
But then I save into a life insurance policy.
Mhm.
And the way I kind of think about it is I am saving for me in the future, old me,
Mhm.
right? A lot of times people don't think about themselves in the future. They just like, it'll be one day that
Right.
guy will figure it out.
Mhm.
But I'm saving for old me, and then old me, this is where it gets like all meta, um, gives young me a loan to buy a house,
Makes
right?
sense.
I'm giving, and so I'm two parties in essence.
Mhm.
I'm giving myself a loan, and then young me pays old me back. Maybe I do that, remember, 10% towards short term. It goes
Mhm.
back into the policy for the next thing, right?
Yeah.
So I'm always playing that game of money in, money out.
Exactly.
How do I best leverage to create more wealth? All the while, my son, who's 6 now,
Right.
if I use this and I die, well, man, I have a loan outstanding. I'm just going to subtract that from the death benefit, and he's
Exactly.
still going to be well.
Right. And again, it's going to keep going back to my previous point where it's about being selfless and actually giving a shit about your younger people and not being selfish. And that leads me to one of the main thing or kind of the final talk about I want to be very respectful of your time is, can you kind of speak on how you and your wife, well, I mean, one of the things that I know myself included, when it comes to business ownership, it's hard to figure out this relationship thing, man. It's hard to figure out,
Mhm.
if you're gonna meet someone that's really supportive of the business, is she gonna be someone that's there for the family, and then how are we gonna build a home? Because the money isn't guaranteed. It's not like we're gonna get paid every 2 weeks, and you got to be like a ride or die
Yep.
and figure it out. Can you kind of speak on how she's played a role in your mindset in terms of, all right, we're going to do this for the house. We're going to be responsible. We're not going to live outside of our means, and we're going to keep paying
Yep.
ourselves and all that. So I'll kind of give you the floor a little bit to speak on how important that aspect is, because a lot of business owners, they get that wrong as well. I know a ton of you guys listening and that get that piece completely wrong.
Yeah. Well, I think first thing is, are you married now, or
No, I am
any
not married.
kids?
I am
No.
not married. No kids.
Yeah.
No, I am free. And
So if I
it's
were
okay if
to
I
tell,
talk to my mom all the time about it. Like the kind of people I have on my show, it's making me ask certain questions to potential suitors
yep.
that I'm like, oof.
Yep.
This dude is different.
So the main thing I would say is you have to 100% have conversations about money. Don't just and date night, and just like you would block time with a business partner, do
Yeah.
that on your marriage. And we have regular practices. Our book, Five Smooth Stones, as we wrote that, it is moving from chaos, which is confusion, haphazard, anxious, overwhelming, and stressful, to what we've done in our regular money meetings as business partners. And we work together. We've been doing this together for a long time, but it's setting your sights, tracking your in and out,
Mhm.
inspecting your progress, looking for 1%, and live deliberately. Now,
Mhm.
this can be about money,
Yeah.
or it can be about, what kind of dad do I want to be, right? Set your sights, track, inspect, look, and live deliberately. The problem is most people are sleepwalking in life and in their business, right? And having those regular conversations quarterly and put it in there. And then often what we do is we have our budget, which I know people hate the word budget because that's restrictive, but yet our budget is very freeing for us because I have a in remember I have the bucket ideas, right? I have mad money, that I call my money I can blow on whatever the heck I want within
Mhm.
reason, right? um and I have a lot of money there that we can use, and she can't tell me I can or cannot use it, right? And that same for her.
Right.
um so we've now, as we run our profit
Mhm.
from Profit First, right? Well, then it goes into the mad money accounts because we still do percentages.
Right.
Uh, and it just happens to sit into a life insurance policy. So having those conversations, and if a girl won't, or if a spouse won't have those conversations, then we need to make some changes. And that's usually the biggest reason for divorce or breakups or failures in business
Mhm.
is money,
That's it.
right?
That's it. Yeah.
Um,
1000%. I
yeah,
can't, you can't do what you just explained if you are dating so many different women. You're not even having straight what you told this one. You took this one out and you're paying
yep,
money for this one, you're buying this one clothes. You need to focus. All right. So much of it. And I love that you alluded to it earlier, where some people have the ability to go grab cash and all that. Getting cash is not a difficult thing for them, but it's the keeping the money because your personal life is so out of whack that you don't know how to focus it and keep it in and make it so it's keep recycling and
yep.
recycling, recycling. So these things are incredibly, incredibly, incredibly important. And I do want to ask.
And on the same time, I do want to say, if you're a business owner and let's say your spouse is a W-2 and they love what they do,
Yes.
man, that is okay. That is awesome because having that guaranteed, theoretically, consistent income of working for the man or whoever is sometimes really, I mean, as a business owner, I'm like, man, I'd love to just work for somebody else sometimes.
Yeah.
And to be able to balance those and know, hey, this is their wheelhouse, this is mine. But having those conversations is powerful.
Yeah, my mother, and I don't know if she's gonna be mad at me for saying this on camera, but she's worked for the post office for years and the transportation department. And there was a conversation that I was having with her. My dad runs his own business, so I kind of saw both sides, but she was telling
Yep.
me, look, without my check, the mortgage don't get paid.
Yeah. Yep.
You don't know these things because they don't, as parents, they try to keep the kids away from that. But so without that check from the post office, the mortgage doesn't get paid. You don't have this nice house to live in.
Yep.
And I'll always be appreciative of the people if you actually do love what you do, you find your situation, don't turn down that job. Don't just do it just to call yourself a business owner because that can be a very slippery,
Mhm.
as you guys said, and especially you regular listeners with the amount of people and amount of things that I've talked about on this very show. So can you just
Yep.
kind of speak on what's next? How can people get in touch with you? What are some of the things you can come seeing down the pipeline and all
Yeah.
that? So I'll give you
Yeah.
that.
So of course we have our book and our community, which you should totally join.
Yes, I am.
It is
I'm
a
that.
it's a free resource where we just try and educate
Mhm.
people. The problem, and this is the thing I think that is very in high demand here and in our world, is no one knows how to think.
Very true.
Right. And there's a book um, called The Road Less Stupid. Right. We just kind of listen to everybody else, and we literally don't have thinking time. So think about your money. Buy like the Five Smooth Stones that we wrote. That is a book that is an interactive money journal. It is not a consume book, but it's a interactive book. Same
Right.
with Profit First. You could read it, but if you don't implement it, it doesn't matter. It's just another dusty book on the shelf, right?
Now you
Um,
listened to it on Audible too, though, didn't you?
oh yeah, I listened to it on
Oh, yeah.
Audible.
It's
I,
like
I
he
got it
was.
right
It was.
here.
It
This is
felt
the
like
original.
it was a conversation. The way he was like reading it, it felt like
Yeah.
actually in my car talking to me because of the way he actually read it.
Well, and Mike is hilarious, right?
Yeah, I was cracking up.
And he's very open and transparent, and he's had some failures.
Hmm.
Um, and I think and Ron is his back end that you don't know.
Hmm.
Ron makes it all happen, right? And you're like, oh, I didn't even know who Ron is, but
Nice.
like, it's kind of like the rocket fuel idea. There's the outward person, and then there's the integrator,
Okay.
right? And I'm like that, there's those things happening.
Okay.
But my thoughts on everybody is find people that are going to help you. I'm a safe money guy. I know what I do here and understanding how business works. So having a life insurance policy makes sense along with Profit First. And we have quests and community things in our group to help specific. But having those people in place to help you reach your goals is super important. You are not on your own. Is I think about this as you're a coach for
Mhm.
boxing, right?
Yeah.
Um, seriously, like you might not be in the ring, but you're helping them say, hey, you're doing the stupid,
Hmm.
um,
Yeah.
right? And you probably said that a few times to a few
Quite
people.
a few.
Hey,
I mean, well, honestly,
yeah,
there was some situations where women were in domestic abusive, like physical relationships, and just
yeah,
learning the put the gloves on, it gives them that peace of mind because they're not,
yeah,
just seeing the guy, their confidence wasn't there. So that's
yeah,
when the job got really serious, is when women started opening up to me with their domestics or their in-home situations. It's like, shit, I didn't even realize that was
yeah.
helping you with.
Yeah. Well, and then here's the thing I think about from a financial standpoint,
Mhm.
and I will go into some of this, and this is if you're in an abusive situation, um, you know, see a counselor or whatever, but
Mhm.
is I think our financial system is almost like an abusive situation. We don't
Very.
even realize it. We're told, don't worry about it. It'll be fine. It'll bounce back. They didn't mean it. Just wait 10 years. And I'm like, if you were in a relationship like
Yeah,
that,
made that
they
connection.
would say something else,
Wow.
right?
Very.
But yet we're told every day, don't worry about it. It'll be fine. They didn't mean it. And I'm like, that, no wonder we're all jacked up.
Yeah. Man, I never even that there is a lot of similarities because there's a lot of women who make the excuse of staying with that person. And you're right,
Mhm.
in our financial lives and what we're being told, yep, we'll give you about there's a PP loan, there's a loan here, there's ways of getting it, but it's never there. And you're expecting something to come because you've been it's and I always make the comparison of high school football because I'm a football guy at
Yeah.
heart. And I
Yeah.
had a coach who we were playing like a string of weak teams. And he told us straight
Yeah.
up, look, I think we're getting worse. We've been playing air for the past 3 weeks, and I think you guys are actually getting worse. So we need to get your asses going, and we need to start,
Yep.
extending because this part of our schedule, these are weaker teams. We're about to get into the playoffs, and it's going to be a different set of teams. And that's what I would tell
Yeah.
every young college kid. That stuff you learn in school is great to go to school and all that, but when you get in the real world, it's dog eat dog. It is eat or be ate, and it's I
Yeah.
mean, you gotta come up with your fist up. That's one of the metaphors I loved when I was
Yeah.
really active with the boxing coaching too.
Yeah.
So
And I could literally, I think about this and I could keep going on this for hours. Sorry.
yes,
But yeah, thinking about profit first,
yeah,
right? If we just got free money all of a sudden, is people are running businesses like they're drunken sailors, right? And they're like, holy, what, you don't even have a profitable business. But if you implement profit first and you're running a profitable business,
Mhm.
well, then that means you have a smaller bucket to do certain things. And you're like, let me make sure that makes sense.
Mhm.
Right. And then you'll do the 80/20 rule, the toothpaste thing, whatever he talks about. Right. And to be able to make sure you're making the right moves. But if you all of a sudden have everything and you're like, yeah, easy come, easy go,
Mhm.
well, you're not going to be a good player.
Exactly.
And I think that that's our problem is most people, again, we think we don't know how to think. And
Mhm.
then we're like, oh, well, just get a loan from the government or something. I'm like, maybe.
Exactly.
Right.
Possibly.
Anyway.
So what's the, I'm not sure if you mentioned, but I'll give you a chance to mention again. What's the website and all that stuff for people? I know you have a podcast as well too. So
Yeah. Yeah, if you go to Wealth Wisdom Financial, that's Wealth Wisdom Financial Podcast is our podcast. You'll have me and my wife talking and bantering back and forth. Then
Mhm.
you can go to wealthwisdomfp.com, wealthwisdomfp.com, financial partners. And then if you go wealthwisdomfp.com/shop, there's our Five Smooth Stones book. And if you want to do a call, our financial analysis are free, no obligation. We do a full deep dive into your maybe business and personal
Mhm.
and really figure out, hey, how can what we do with whether it's profit first or the banking yourself concept, how can we implement that to help you bob and weave in both your life and business.
I like
That's
the
kind of what I'm
connection. I
thinking
like
about.
the
So,
connection, my man. I like that. Bob and weave through your business. All right, you got me thinking about those boxing clients, man.
all
All right.
right,
So,
so you got to do.
yeah, the final thing I do to close out all the shows, Brandon, is I want you to use your imagination a little bit. You are, like you said, you're on the treadmill, you're getting those endorphins going. You get a call that your coffee shop has a leak in the roof or whatever, and you have to make some hard decisions. So pretend that that version of Brandon has come into the Zoom room. Give him some words of encouragement, and we'll officially close.
Oh man, I tell them get out because I at that point I did not know I was pregnant or not. My wife was pregnant,
Yeah.
and some other things is learn everything you can um, and step into who you are. And my old business name after I sold the coffee shop was Grandma's Wealth Wisdom.
Mm.
What I think I should have done is say, dude, you actually have a lot more in you. You know what you're doing. You don't have to have somebody else's thing, but we did some amazing stuff back then. Own it is what I would say is own what you did and people don't be hesitant about sharing. And so I feel like I'm just now coming into that saying, no, actually we've been doing this 6 years. I know what the heck I'm talking about. Um, at that point, I'm like, I don't know. I only own a coffee shop, but I think that's I own what you've done.
Yes, ownership and control. If you take anything away from everything we learned today, it's number one, ownership. Number two, you've got to control. You got to have some control over your finances and do not give people the power over you, especially your funding and how you eat and operate, because your family has got to be priority number one, not your
Yep.
ego, not what you put on Instagram and all that stuff. So with all that, fellow teammates, continue to move swiftly. We will talk more soon.